This section is called equations that reduce to linear form. Basically, they are just going to put a bunch of junk into the equation and we have to figure out how to get rid of all that junk and get it down to something that looks like what we can solve. So in example A and B, do you want to do A or B? I think B looks more difficult, doesn't it? Let's do B. So there's a whole bunch of grouping things in example B. Go to the middle, find the middlemost grouping. That'd be this 3 times x minus 1. Let's deal with that first. So that would be 3x minus 3. And then we can combine like terms, or we can go ahead and distribute. It really doesn't matter what we do next. I think just for ease, I'm going to distribute this -2 into everything inside this group. So I still have the 5x out front. I'm going to have -8x, -6x, +6 equals 8 minus 3x. Then we can combine all of our like terms. So, handy dandy calculator to help me. (5x) and -8x and -6x is -9x. And now this is an equation like we had yesterday. I would always recommend that you deal with your x's first. So we can either add 3x to both sides, or we can add 9x to both sides. Which would you prefer? I'm going to add 9x because that's going to create a positive x. But if you added 3x to both sides, that would not be wrong. We subtract 8 on both sides, or if you did it the other way, you would be subtracting 6 on both sides. And divide by 6 to get x equals -2/6. Is that something we can easily simplify? That's -1/3. If we have fraction equals fraction, we are allowed to cross multiply, and that makes solving these equations a lot easier. So in example 2a, we have fraction equals fraction. There's no extra addition or subtraction anywhere, so we can cross multiply. 6x times 5 is 30x, and 25 times 3 is 75. Now this looks more like a linear equation. So to solve this, we are going to divide both sides by 30. And that honestly gives me a nice, pretty decimal 2.5. So I'm going to leave that one as a decimal 2.5. It doesn't say how to leave our answer, so really we get to choose. So if you wanted to simplify that fraction and make it 5/2, you can. If you want to write 2.5, you can. So in example B, because there's a plus sign, we can't currently cross multiply. But do you see how there's a 0 on the other side? Could we subtract 1/2 on both sides to get it to look like fraction equals fraction so that we could cross multiply? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep the 5x over 4 on one side and do -1/2 on the other. So what I did was I subtracted 1/2 on both sides. Now we have fraction equals fraction. So we have 10x equals -4. X equals -0.4. In example 3, if you really, really, really wanted to do cross multiply, you could add 1/3 to both sides and figure out what 2 1/3 was as a fraction. But we're getting to a point now where we're really looking at more work than necessary, and that strategy is not going to help us very well in example B. So we need another strategy. If it's not fraction equals fraction, how can we solve these when there's fractions? The way to do this is to kill the fractions. Get rid of the fractions completely. Take a look at the denominators, 2 and 3. What number pops into your head that's bigger than 2 and 3 when you think of 2 and 3? 6. Let's multiply every single term in this equation by 6. So if I take this term times 6, you're multiplying the top. So 6 times 3x is 18x. 18 divided by 2. Anyone know what 18 divided by 2 is? 9. So that's 9x. Basically what you're doing in your calculator, which my calculator is going to take forever to pull up, you're taking 3 halves times 6. So in your calculator, if you do 3 halves times 6, you end up with 9. So it's 9x. Then the next term, let me show you what that looks like on this calculator really quick. 3 halves, you just do 3 divided by 2 times 6 is 9. The next one is negative 1/3. We're taking that times 6. That's negative 2. And then 2 times 6 is 12. 9x minus 2 equals 12 looks a lot nicer than what we had before. So now we would add 2 on both sides. 9x equals 14. I don't like that fraction either. I don't think we can simplify it. It's 1.5 repeated, so I'm going to leave it as 14/9. Yeah, it's not grand, but it works. Example B. We want to kill the fractions. What do you think we need to multiply by to kill the fraction? 20. 5 and 4 is 20. So this first one, if we multiply by 20, we're really doing 20 divided by 5, which is 4. In the next one, we're doing 3/4 times 20. So grab your calculator, and we are doing 3/4 times 20. 15. And there's an x there as well, so 15x. And don't forget to do the right side times 20. 19 times 20 is 380. Do you feel like you could finish that one if you needed to, now that it's not fractions? What would you do next? Combine them to get 19x equals 380 and then divide to finish. Okay, let's move on. The best bet. So I was just saying before the video started, when you see parentheses, distribution isn't always the best bet. In this case, I really don't want to distribute 2/3, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 halves. That will get rid of this entirely, so I'll have x plus 1/4 on the left. And on the right, 1 times 3 on the top is 3, 2 times 2 on the bottom is 4. Now this looks like the types of equations that we've been solving in the last example. Think about your denominators, 4 and 4. What could we multiply by to make the 4 and the 4 disappear? 4. We don't have to multiply by 16. You don't have to multiply them together. They're both 4. Multiply everything by 4. So this term times 4 is 4x. What is 1/4 times 4? 1/4 times 4 is 1. And 3/4 times 4 is 3. And now our fractions are gone. Poof! And we can solve this. X equals 1/2. Woo! So in example B, What would you multiply everything by? To get an A in a course, you must have an average of at least 90 points for 4 tests that are 100 points each. For the first 3 tests, your scores were 87, 92, and 84. What must your score on the 4th test be to earn a 90% average for the course? To find an average, you add the tests together, so 87, 92, 84. And what's the score on the 4th test? We don't know, so use a letter because that's the one you don't know. You take all of those and divide by the number of numbers, and we want that to equal 90%, which is, think about what that would be in your calculator, 0.9. So, to solve this, the first thing we need to do is get rid of this big, ugly divided by 4. How do you get rid of divided by 4? Multiply by 4. .9 times 4 is 3.6. You can also combine these 3 scores together. 87, 92, and 84 makes 263. Oh, wait. Anyone see what I did wrong? The 0.9, you'd want that. The tests are all 100 points, so when we find the average, this number right here would still be 90. You want a 90% average. To get a 90% average on a 100-point test, that would be a score of 90. My bad there. And 90 times 4 is 380, 360. Then subtract 263. Must get a 97 on that test to have a 90% average for the course.